That's fine.
You go?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, welcome to episode 4
of Real Talk.
I never thought we'd come this far, Julio.
Well, we keep crawling along.
We do.
Something's happening.
We do, yeah, absolutely. As we're crawling along, and so is this real estate market.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a huge change going on right now with interest rates. That's kind of shocked everything.
Yeah.
We'll see, we'll see what it looks like and how people can adapt and what the market does, because that's going to be interesting. And I think that's what we're going to be talking about today is essentially, market update, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where are we? What's going on? It's a good time to do it because, now we're going to start to see things settle in as to what we do next. And
sure. Well,
how do we navigate?
The market has always had its own way of adjusting in different ways to changes in circumstance. Like in the 1980s, when interest rates were over 10%, there was a lot of seller paper holding the paper. Like there's always creative ways that the market keeps moving around, because one thing will never change, and that is eventually, for various reasons, everybody has to move.
Yeah. Well, and everybody needs a place to stay.
That's right.
So I think our most recent trend that happened in 2018 that kind of relates to the changes that we're seeing in the market. So from November of 2018, I was researching this last night, to April of 2019, we had a really big change in interest rates around that time. So this was coming off of the Fed saying, hey, we're really going to be pulling back on our support of the market because, this is 2018. So this is 10 years after the 2008 market.
Sure.
Crash, instability, kind of stuff. And they were really just aggressive about just trying to back out of the market and get more into natural conditions. And the interest rate jumped up to about 4.5% at that time. And everybody just kind of was like, whoa, what's going on? And it affected affordability, people examining what they wanted to buy. And when you look at the average change in house prices, it flattened things out.
Yeah.
And on average in Long Beach, we dropped down maybe $3,000 in average. But once people started getting comfortable and things started to change, the market interest rates started to change, and then everything started to shoot up again.
Sure. Yeah. So let's see here. A year ago, interest rates were, on average, the average interest rate was 3.11%.
Yes. And
today, the average interest rate that people are locking is, and I read this morning, let me know if you disagree, is 4.05%. Does that sound about right with where we are right now?
Yeah.
Between refis and purchases, just an average?
In December 23rd, I'll give you an exact date, December 23rd of 2021, the interest rate was at 3%.
Wow.
To be able to lock.
Yeah.
And now we are 2 months later, we're just February 24th here. Pretty much 2 months to the day, and it is now at about 4%.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a major jump in a very short period of time. Now, have you seen the Fed actually raise rates by 100 basis points, or is this overcorrection coming from the banks, or is it a combination of the two?
The Fed has basically said, we are committed to raising interest rates. We are committed to the process well into 2023 to raise interest rates and raise that prime rate so that the market can come back to a normal environment. So remember, March 2020, the Fed jumped in and said, we are dropping the Fed rate down to 0.
Yeah.
So what that meant to you as a homeowner is that the margins that the banks were making on the loans were the only thing that was really being priced into the market. So what happened is then that drops the interest rate down. Now, money is cheaper, so people are able to borrow still at a cheaper rate. So next thing you know, the market starts to jump.
Yeah.
The Fed can only use that 0% interest rate in times of emergency. And, for the last 2 years, we've been in an emergency situation. So the Fed now needs to regain control by pulling back that support so that they have that silver bullet if they should ever need it in the future.
Yeah.
So this is the Fed trying to get back to normal conditions in how they handle things.
Sure.
But when you have this situation, I always equate it to that party, when you've been clubbing all night long and then they kick on the lights and say, hey, it's time to go home.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, whoa, wait, I need another beer.
Yeah.
Before I leave, I'm not done yet.
Yeah.
That's really what's going on. So lights have been turned on. We've got to change things here. We've been running too hot. So at this point now, the Fed has made announcements, and what has happened is that the market has overcorrected maybe to kind of step in front of the situation. So when the Fed actually jumps in and makes the changes in the market, the market itself
has already adjusted.
Has adjusted to it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but nobody knows how much are they going to adjust it. It's going to be, 25 basis points, which, depending upon your loan amount, may mean that your 4% interest rate, has no cost, goes to a 4% interest rate with a $2,000 cost. That may be the difference in that. It just depends on your scenario, your loan, your options.
Yeah, according to Market Matters, so at an $835,000 purchase price, the difference in your mortgage payment between 3% and 4% is going to be about $350. Does that sound about right?
That is correct.
Yeah. So for the same house, if you bought it in December, as opposed to if you bought it now, the price difference is going to, the monthly mortgage payment is going to be about $350 more.
Correct. And I think we're still seeing, because of the effects of where we were coming off of in 2021, we still have a 20,000 difference in price increases too.
Yeah.
So people were snatching up properties, and you look at those averages and we're still up by 20K.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of what people are struggling with is interest rates are higher, the market should adjust, the sellers should adjust. Well, it takes time for people to adjust their expectations. So 2020 and 2021, we had increases in values between 14 and 16%, right? Typical increases in values that we saw prior to that were 3.3%.
Yeah.
All the way up to, I think the highest was 5% increases in values year over year. So what we've seen is unprecedented, where we've seen this this change and increase in values. I think a good thing to keep in mind is that with those increased in values, everybody thinks, well, then there's going to be a constriction. But it's not. And I think it goes to back what you and I were talking about, I think a couple episodes ago, which was supply and demand, right?
Yeah.
The demand is still there because people need places to live. The supply is low.
Yeah.
Finding that house that you can get into in neighborhoods that you want to be in still has competition because there's value there.
Sure. Yeah. So going back to what you were talking about before, we saw the highest year-over-year growth in home prices between August 2020 and August 2021 of 20%.
Yeah.
Between August of 2020 and August of 2021, they went up 20%. And so now we have this increase in interest rates, and people are wondering, what are the forecasts for 2022, with 100 to possibly even 200 basis point increase, which is just 1 or 2 points, which is a lot. And the prognostications and the analysts are all over the place. Fannie Mae says they're expecting us to go up 7.2%. CoreLogic says only 3% growth for the year of 2020.
That was supposed to
and
say
then Zillow's
2022.
Saying close to 20% growth again, even with the increase in interest rates. And so it really, where's this market going to go? It depends on who you ask and who's crunching the numbers.
And that's exactly right, because it's we don't know.
Yeah.
That's really the truth, is we don't know.
Yeah, it's like the magic 8 ball. Just shake your magic 8 ball, and that answer is as good as one that I can give you.
Yeah, because it's, how are borrowers going to react to the market? Where's people's budget coming from? Like, who's actually stepping into this market? What are they facing? How are they getting qualified?
Sure.
What kind of mortgage products are going to be out there for them? Who's selling? There's a lot of factors that go into this, that to say that the market is going to increase, at where we were in 2018, they could. That's 3% still, and that's still solid growth.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing to keep in mind, that I think more than anything, is that most people believe, from what we're hearing, is that at minimum, it's going to continue to stay stable.
Oh, yeah.
So you're not, at worst case scenario, prices will just be here and stay the same. But we still expect, because, you can't understate not having enough houses to sell for the people that are looking, on what that does to price.
Yeah, no, that's supply side. And so whether this growth that's predicted is good depends on if you're a consumer or if you're a seller, and if you're moving up or if you're moving down, because if you're moving down, it's great. If you're moving up, it's not so great. And if you're a first-time home buyer, it's very difficult. We're seeing a lot of earlier millennials getting into the market right now and writing upwards of 12 offers and just losing out to the cash buyer, the people who are experienced in the market and they have the ability to buy without the variable of a loan product. And so it's really hard to compete with. But what I have to say is stay with it, because we see it time and time again, discouraged people saying, oh, that was the house, that was the house. That wasn't the house. And when it's meant to be, you'll get the house. And you'll understand the process when you get those keys. It's just harder than it's ever been. So a housing shortage begins when we're at 4 to 6 months supply. Right now we're at 1.2 months. So this housing shortage is not going to be figured out in the next year or two. This is going to take years to get out of, and I don't think it's good to wait years if you're ready to buy now. Just get into it, work at it as much as you can. Don't exhaust yourself, but stay persistent with it, because persistence will pay with keys.
Yeah, and that's great advice, is just to stay persistent, to keep communications with your real estate agent, with your loan officer, and just talking about the numbers. I think where we are now is a big change in what's happened. And I think this is the correction where we're needed to be at.
Sure.
And now we're going to start finding our groove with things. We've noticed some changes in the rates where it's felt more like it's leveling off versus shooting up. Some of that has to do with Russia attacking Ukraine. So those affect the way investors invest into our bond market and other aspects of the economy. So the world's a complicated place. It's got a lot of things going on.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing as a home buyer is to focus on your budget. Have really deep conversations, and you and I have always talked about this, is just communicating concerns and, fears, and look at the numbers and sit down with your team so that they can break it all down for you to see where's the right place to be. Because that's what it is. We're sitting here with you as your team mates. We're not trying to push in anything. It's just that this is the reality of the market, and it is not a bad thing to invest. I was looking at rents today, just on rentometer.com, looking at 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom houses in Long Beach. Just 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, whether it's a condo, duplex house, whatever it is. And the 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, on average, that's all throughout Long Beach, right, is renting at $3,200 a month.
Yeah.
And that's on average across the board.
Yeah.
If you focus on a house, if you have like garage, whatever your amenities are, now that could be pushing you up to that $3,700, $3,800 a month, which 2 years ago, that was trending at somewhere between 24 and 28. 24 was the average, 28 was the high.
Yeah.
Now we're almost $1,000 over that. So there's an overall increase in the cost of living. gas, food, everything costs more, and the goal for the Fed right now is to really bring in that inflation into
rein it in, rein in the inflation, and that's one of the reasons that, and the bond market, it has been a net loss with the inflation, so they have to add some interest there to the bond market, so people hold on to them, because that could create some fiscal bottlenecking if people just give up on the bond market. So, what it all boils down to is a lack of supply. Rents are so high because there just aren't enough homes. Builders stopped building. The builders stopped building. They had a lack of, what they're saying is they have a lack of skilled labor, supply shortages, and rising costs.
Oh yeah, the cost of lumber. What was it? I was talking to an electrician, and just the cabling that he uses almost tripled for him to be able to run lines for people's houses. So that increased his cost in order to get work done. Talking to contractors, and as far as new construction, their concern is over the price of wood and just what it's going to cost in order to build a house. Now that affects your construction cost by, you go from $100 a square foot as far as cost now to $300, $400, $500 a square foot per cost.
It's big.
That's huge, and so you that also increases the cost of whatever you're selling on the back end if you're creating new homes.
And that's if you can even get a hold of the supplies. There are so many construction projects that are months and months, if not years, delayed because they can't get a hold of the supplies that they're used to building with. And a lot of those supplies are sitting on shipping containers out at our port,
Yeah, and that's the residual effect of what we've been dealing with COVID, right? Our supply chain has been affected, so it's a ripple effect, with what we've experienced. It wasn't just a poof. We're continuously feeling this effect as we come out of this and moving forward. So
it's just created so much uncertainty on so many different levels. But coming back to housing, we have never seen investor interest as solid in single-family residence as we do now. They're buying 80,000 homes a quarter, just on the investment side. And most of these are cash buyers, and they're realizing that even though there's so much uncertainty in every market right now, there's nothing as solid as real estate.
The investment in real estate and the consistency of the growth is huge. So you won't lose by buying a house.
No.
So you balance your portfolio by investing into key pieces such as your dividend-based portfolios and then your real estate market.
But I think we can expect it to slow down in terms of the year-over-year growth in home prices. It's going to slow. We're not going to see 20% annualized.
No. That was unique to the pandemic scenario.
Super,
but if you look at what we've seen in past years, so 2018, 2017, 19, 16, everything was at 3% to 5% growth. Okay, and we in our area here, and we're talking California. So if you're in Ohio, if you're in Kansas, your market is different and unique to your area, and your growth and what's changing in your market depends on the influx of capital that's coming into your sector. So in our area here in California, in Southern California primarily, we see the growth because we're starting to see it more as a premium market. It's land close to the beach. And what does that do to property values as people want to grab those pieces? 2008 was an anomaly in the sense that the financing that was done for it was done incorrectly. But the idea of wanting to grab properties and the values that were happening with those properties, that wasn't the anomaly. Values in that time was going and going up. The problem is banks mishandled it.
Did you have a pulse
Huh?
Did you have a pulse in 2008?
Yeah.
We'll give you a loan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really what it was. Yeah, they'd be like,
Yes.
yep, you're approved.
Finance.
You know, and that's really what caused that collapse.
Yeah, and now you're going to start seeing the difference in financing techniques come
Sure.
back, where you're going to see things that are creative with less down. You know, you're going to have conversations about adjustable rate mortgages that are going to start to come up, because as a consumer, you're going to need creative products as the interest rates start to rise.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're not talking about that here in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 2022, 4% interest rates are still good interest rates,
Mm-hmm.
you know. It's just that, you know, if in 2025, if we start seeing interest rates up in the 5.5% all the way up to the 6s, where it was, you know, what feels like not too long ago, but I guess it was a while ago, it's not uncommon, and that may be the case in the future. And
Sure.
I'm talking 3-4 years down the line.
Yeah, and if it rises to 5.5-6%, we'd be on par with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
That, I mean, investors who are investing globally, that's what they're used to, you know, and they're still, you know, seeing margins between what monies are going out and what's coming in, you know, and they're still making money. So the market will adjust as needed. What we really just need to do is figure out a creative supply increase. And I think that's going to be just a matter of getting rid of